Now I went pretty even. This was a tier or a tier. This was a floor 10 Asuka that had a little bit more. That had like maybe level 30 or something on the character.
Instead of reflecting on themselves, they blame the beast.
And they were going pretty ham.
Or hell.
We went fairly even. I think the final record was like 7 to 10 in their favor. So like I had 7 wins, they had like 10, something like that. Learned a lot. Like that. So you can rapid fire your spells, which I had no idea. Cause like I said, this was like my first PvP game playing Asuka. A lot of this first game is just, I think, us trying to figure out what the character does. Asuka has a really good grab in reaction. So like if somebody runs at you, Asuka feels really good when you just like back throw them. One thing I noticed is that unless you've got a bunch of shit down really well, these games frequently went to close to time. Asuka Far Slash is very akin to Vikings, where it's really fast and really good at round start. From what I could tell anyway. I'm not an Asuka genius. Again, just like grab, like reacting with throw seemed really good. Again, just like I did it a bunch. So yeah, like this game was just us trying to figure out what the hell this guy was even supposed to do. Yeah. So I think here, the one thing that I found out, I don't know if it's actually coded as a projectile, but Asuka's 2D is extremely long range. Very good at like tripping people up as they run at you. Another thing that I wasn't great at was using the other test cases. Just because I was so like bombarded with everything that I just kind of forgot about them a lot of the time. It's another thing. I believe it's really like the timing for canceling out of like your mana recovery is really tight. So you got to be careful when using that, because it is pretty easy to punish. Yeah, and the staffs are important to keep track of. Like, there's a lot of micromanaging that goes into not just playing Asuka, but playing against him, because you have to keep track of, all right, what's his mana at? How, like, what spells does he have? What test case is he in? Does he still have barrier up or not? Because that could change the amount of things that you need to do to KO him. That move on Wake Up is brutal. Now see, this move is very easy to oh, what's the word I'm looking for? To not like cancel out of, but like you can immediately go into a block from that. A lot of those, yeah, like that move, or I'm summoning the thorns from the ground. A lot of that was just me fumbling my super, because I think I was like doing it wrong, because I'm so used to like the pendulum motions being like you do the motion and then you hit heavy, but for Asuka you can do punch or kick, and it'll have a different effect, and that was throwing me off big time. If the enemy Asuka had enough mana there, I was probably dead, because they would have rapid fired those spells and I would have been toast. Unfortunately, they were not prepared for me to just be an ape and run up throw them. Round start 2D from Asuka seems pretty good. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's a projectile, so it's probably pretty safe depending on who you're up against. Asuka Close Slash is also, I think it's considered a meaty because it hits on multiple frames. So like you can run up Close Slash them as they're trying to do something. If they're hitting a button while they're coming out of block stun, you're just gonna smoke them. 6P from Asuka is also really good. It seems really easy to combo into off of a lot of things. And here we do the song and dance of having to reload all of our spells. So this is something that I didn't notice, and I believe it happens here, yeah. They had 2 of the teleport spells, and I didn't even see that. You can just do that in rapid succession. The spell overhead is also really good. You gotta keep an eye on that. It doesn't come up very often because I think it's a 1-up, but like when it happens, you will get smoked by it. That move, that spell is disgusting. If you draw that in your opening hand as Asuka round 1, like you start with that every time. Because I found out today it's a guard crush. So the only option they have is to backdash at round start if they see that. Because if they don't, they're gonna get owned super hard. And this is the downside of Asuka. So I switched test cases here, just because I wasn't sure what would happen. And the biggest problem with Asuka is keeping not just track of your mana, but not just track of your spells, but your mana. Because if you go through all of it, you can't even attempt to recharge it. It has to recharge automatically. I think I did get that one. Yeah, so 2D on Asuka is disgusting. It's super fast, and it's a projectile, so it slides right under most other projectiles. So like normally that big orb that Asuka threw out there, or the other Asuka threw out there, would have eaten any other projectiles that it ran into. But the Asuka 2D just slides right underneath it. Yeah, you can rapid fire like 3, or you can rapid fire your entire hand if you have enough mana. So like if they get caught by the first spell, they're gonna get caught by every spell. That seems really good, but it requires a lot of like paying attention and thinking about what you can and can't get away with under certain situations. Like that Asuka obviously punished me with that first projectile, so they just fired off the other 2. But if you whiff the first one, you're probably going to whiff the rest of them. So, and here it comes. Yep, the big fire burst. I honestly think what the other Asuka did there was pretty good. I think spending tension to regain mana is like perfectly fine. I think spending health to regain mana is the dumbest fucking thing that you could do on this character. Like in a pinch, sure, but I watched a bunch of games today as where there was an Asuka versus Potemkin, and at any point if the Asuka had spent health to regain mana, the game would have just been over. Like no shot. Like they lived on a sliver of health in a lot of those games. So you got to be real careful with that. I don't think. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not a great player, and I'm definitely not going to be an Asuka player. But from what I have seen, it's probably not a good idea to spend health to regain mana. Spending tension is perfectly fine. It's probably optimal to spend tension, just because what the hell else is he going to do? Yeah, right there. That teleport got me multiple times during these games. Yeah. The projectiles also don't collide, so I don't know if they're actually coded as projectiles or not, but they don't collide, meaning that if you throw like 2D into 2D, they'll just slide right past each other. Okay. Okay, so Asuka here, the enemy Asuka. God, it's so hard to talk about this. I believe used the reroll card that they had, like pretty much immediately. Yeah, they just reroll. So using the reroll card, I think only rerolls into your open slots. So all three of these other spells were here from the beginning. I find that interesting. They didn't bother to start with anything else. They just straight up were like, yeah, I want to keep these other two spells, get some spacing, but reroll the last one. I find that interesting. Yeah, because like they just burned through all of them right there. Like I don't quite know if that was intentional or not, but like if you're gonna burn through all of your damage spells, like why not keep the reroll spell? Seems kind of weird to me. Especially because they're out of cards now, and they're almost entirely out of mana. Like if I was good and had been able to punish any of that, like they wouldn't have anything. Oh. Yeah, see, it takes a while to cancel out of like the restore mana ability. They just barely had enough time to block that super. And I opened the one of DP there. I wanted to see what would happen if I tried it at round start. It was probably better to do the fireball, but that one also wasn't bad. Unfortunately, I think you can get away with doing that in a mirror match. Probably not against somebody like, say, like Baiken or Soul, who are gonna like get in on you all the time. Yeah, and here I managed to roll 3 fireballs. Like, I don't remember. Yeah, I pretty much just fire all of them off because they guard crush, and like they do a ton of damage on hit or even like especially on counter hit. It's kind of free to just use them. Unfortunately, I was out of mana basically immediately after doing that, but it was pretty worth it because I broke through their armor. I just noticed that this staff, the one that like makes everything like bounce away from it, just kind of ate all of those things. So like Asuka is going to be a very hard character to manage. I feel like this is a staff that's meant to be defensive and not for your own detriment. So like maybe in the mirror, like if your opponent like has this test case that they have right now, you summon, like you activate this staff and then boom, their giant wall of fireballs that they were trying to throw out just get tossed to the ground. Yeah, and like that's another way that you can take advantage of that. So like Asuka is extremely vulnerable when trying to recover mana. So if you can take advantage of that, you can get some huge damage or some really good Oki. Now here's the inverse of that other staff. This one got me a couple of times because it would suck up the fireball, but then it would like force it into like a weird spiral, and those can count as overheads, and those got me a couple of times. Yeah, see, look at what it does there. Look at what it does to the huge fireball that just eats all of the other projectiles. Like, you can just get juggled here. Again, just throwing on reaction seems like one of the smartest things that you can do on defense. Because, like, a lot of people know that you don't have, like, any defense unless you have the fireball or the ice pillar up. So, if they run up and try to like hit you with a meaty, you just throw in reaction. Yeah, you can rapid fire the double big orb, and then, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do in this scenario? Because you can't jump that. That thing it is too big to jump. You just gotta pray it runs out. Again, I think this was me just not realizing what all of the stuff was doing. Like, I just randomly, like, I just fired a projectile into this other one when I had seen it, like, eat projectiles before. I think a lot of the pressure of learning a new character, especially one is what feels as complex as Asuka, he's probably not going to be in the long run. It's just a matter of juggling all of his resources. But, like, when you're in the moment, it's hard to remember a lot of that stuff. Again, like, this staff being able to like, warp gravity around it and pull in projectiles really, really messes with a lot of stuff. Like, I was just, like, I was still blocking there just because I was trying to keep my distance from the other Asuka. If I had not still been blocking, I would have gotten hit by that projectile as it came back around. And again, there, like, those other projectiles would have just kept going had that staff not here. But because this one was here, they looped back around and continued to juggle me. That seems really good. And the position that I'm in here feels like, oh god, I'm pretty sure this ends up poorly. The position that I'm in here as the Asuka feels like a lot of what's probably going to happen with him, where he's really cool. He's got a lot of cool shit going on. Like, I cannot express how cool he is. If you get hit and you have to fight for resources, there's almost no way to come back. Because every time you get hit, you lose mana and you lose power in your shield. Once you've lost your shield and you're out of mana to do your spells, you have next to nothing left. Like, your normals are good, don't get me wrong. Asuka has a lot of good normals. But you are going to get boned if you aren't careful about managing the resources. And a lot of that just comes down to, do you get run down by a Baiken, a Soul, or a Geo or not? Yeah, see, look at that barrage. Like, the fact that you can rapid fire spells seems so powerful. Because, like, I was just stuck there. Like, this, like, the other Asuka just fired off a bunch of shit all at once. And, like, I had to just sit there and take it. That move, I did a bunch on accident, trying to get my super out. I don't actually know what that move is, but god, it's nasty. The OTG, just, it's like a sweep, but it's hard to describe because I'm not very smart. But that move seems really good. I don't know if Asuka has, like, a bad move per se, but, like, a lot of them feel very situational, which I think is fine. Like, you just gotta be really good at micromanaging to do what you need to do with Asuka to get it to work. Again, just me forgetting that this huge projectile just eats every other projectile. Yeah, again, the round start fireball seems so powerful. If you open the fireball, like, I don't know why you would do any other move. I think that's the one downside to the 2D from Asuka, is that it's I think it's minus on block. So, like, the other Asuka just blocked it, and then I got punished for it. So, getting counter hit while you're trying to refill your spells is miserable. That is so bad. Because, like, I think that's probably going to be the worst part of playing Asuka. Well, one of the worst parts. Because there's, like, having to, like, being able to be interrupted while you're regaining mana is fine, right? But being counter hit while you're doing a move that doesn't do anything to the opponent, that is miserable. Oh, it feels so bad. I'm gonna say it, I'm probably wrong, but aside from like Potemkin, I think Asuka's probably gonna be one of the best characters to Cold Burst on, just because when you're out of spells, you can immediately go into the super that lets you swap everything, and that's gonna be huge. So like if you find yourself in a scenario where you interrupt an opponent with a projectile, if you got 3 more loaded up, you can just rapid fire all of them off and then immediately super and refill your hand. I think Asuka with Gold Burst is gonna be pretty sick. I'd never noticed this. Like, I knew that taking damage as Asuka depleted your mana. I didn't realize how much. Like, that throw depleted like maybe 10%. Knowing that interrupting the big wall of fireballs with anything and then it just cancels the whole spell is so good. Like, I know that if you interrupt him, it cancels the whole spell for any spell and then gets rid of the card. But knowing that it works, like, even if some of the spell has gone off, is so good. Well, it's good for the opponent. It's really bad for Asuka. That was dope. I have to be so real. That was one of the sickest things that you can do. Like, you teleport to avoid the super, and then you just get the nastiest fucking Oki. Okay. Don't do this. In theory, this is a good idea. Unfortunately, whoever uses their super second here gets destroyed. Just massively punished. Because I had no time to recover from my animation, and he had plenty of time. Oh my god. Again, you rapid fire all of those spells. You get a huge amount of damage there. And then, like, depending on how far they end up flying, because this all depends on the spells that you use and etc, etc. You can just immediately refill your hand if you're quick enough. This guy is gonna be a problem. Not like on a huge scale, but like, if you're a good Asuka, you're gonna make a lot of people upset. God, just look at that! Look at that fucking... Look at that chaotic mess of projectiles up there. God, that's gross. That's so funny. Yep. Oh, we had 0 seconds left. Like I said, like it keeps happening. Like, these games keep going down to the wire. And I don't know if that's specifically going to be like an Asuka mirror thing, or if that's just us trying to figure out how to play the character. But keep that in mind. Like, these games can go long. It has happened multiple times. I think they probably just, like, autopiloted in that scenario. It's like, thought, like, you were supposed to do this thing, but I got blocked, but you just ended up doing it anyway. That's not uncommon. It's just unfortunate that they're at 850 meter. God, look at that. Look at what happens when you lose your shield. You just get fucking owned. Look at that damage. That's disgusting. I don't know why they teleported out of that. They were in a really good position, and they just needed to keep pelting me with stuff. Like, I'm on the back foot here. If your opponent is on the back foot, like, look at my health. Like, I have very little mana, a little less than half, next to no health, and we're tied. There's still like 35, 40 seconds left in the round. There's no need to leave where you are standing as a zoner. I know it probably sucks to hear for a lot of people, but like zoners are important in these games because they play on a different axis that I think is important. And as a zoner, you do not need to teleport out of a safe position where you are winning to try to, I don't know, do something else. Like, they didn't need to teleport out of there is what I'm saying. They were perfectly fine standing there, pelting me with stuff, and then recovering mana and cards. Yeah, and you can see the chaos here. Like, oh, I feel like some of these games you can just win in time, just because look at what the hell is happening here. What am I, as the Asuka on the back foot, supposed to do? Like, in this situation, like, even if I had projectiles to throw out, they would just get sucked up into the black hole above me. And that was all of the Asuka games that I played. I think our like the servers kind of exploded immediately after this game, so we didn't get to play anymore. But I think the character is super cool. Asuka is so dope. He's so cool. I don't want to take the time to learn how to juggle all of his resources. It sounds exhausting. It really does. He's also just, like, not the type of character I like to play. I like to be really in people's faces when it comes to, like, most games. So not exactly what I want to be doing here, but I'm excited to see what people manage to do with him in the coming weeks. Hopefully some people figure out some cool shit going on with him before everybody drops Strive to go play Street Fighter 6.